This is Showtime, a podcast about the people behind the curtain and the stories that shape them. I'm Andrew G, and each week I sit down with creatives, leaders and risk takers from the theatre world and beyond. We talk about what they do, why they do it, and what it really takes to keep showing up. Today I'm joined by rising musical theatre musician Ash Murdica. From community theatre in regional Victoria to national tours of Dear Evan Hansen, Rent and Six, Ash has fast become one of Melbourne's most in-demand musicians. Let's have a chat about what's next. Welcome to Showtime, Ash Murdica.
Thank you. Thanks for that great intro.
Thanks for being great and thanks for coming into the studio. Can you tell me what first drew you to music as a kid?
What drew me to music as a kid is that my sister was a musician, so she used to play guitar and sing for like pub gigs in around my area. So I always kind of grew up seeing that. And then what actually got me into starting to play music is that we had a new girl come to my school when I was in like year 8, and she sat across the classroom from me in French class, and she saw that she thought my hair looked really cool. So she was like, Ash, we should be in a band together just because of my hair. So that's what got me into being in bands for the first time.
And did you grow up in a musical household?
So my sister would always be practicing. My parents, not really, but my dad's brothers were like in bands too.
Do you remember the first time you played in front of a live audience?
The first time I played in front of a live audience was probably in high school for my school bands. That's where I really started out. I was in probably 4 at a time when I got into year 11. So we'd do lots of performing in the auditorium at high school.
And do you remember it as an exciting experience, as a nerve-wracking experience, as a moment of enlightenment? What was it? What were those feelings?
It was always super exciting to be like making music with my friends. It was always super fun.
And did you you were in a few bands at the time, you were saying. And what sort of styles were you playing? Were you experimenting with different sounds and ideas?
We were doing a lot of popular songs like Mr. Brightside and just sort of the cooler rock songs. We did the very, very first song that we did was Song 2 by Blur. And at the time, in my very first high school band, I didn't know much about music theory at all. Like I didn't know how to play a chord on piano, and the bass player had to show me. So, yeah.
And was there a moment during that time where it occurred to you that this could be a career?
It occurred to me when I got into my first musical. So my high school music teachers were in the community theatre orchestra for the next show coming up, Wicked. And that was back in 2021. They helped me get into the band because they told the MD that I wanted to be involved. So I got to kind of shadow the guitar book. And yeah, they helped me get into it. And that was my first like performance outside of high school. So it was like really eye-opening, and it was so cool to be around all these new people.
So just going back a step,
Yeah.
Wicked was your first musical.
Yeah, Wicked was my first.
That's not a terrible way to start a career in musical theatre, is it?
It's massive for your first show. I haven't even like seen any other amateur theatre companies doing it recently.
And where did you grow up? Where in regional Victoria?
I grew up in Warragul.
Was it always something that you wanted to do, to move to Melbourne and explore music professionally?
I think it started once I kept doing theatre more and more. Yeah, it was just a progression. I just thought that, yeah, this is really cool, and I would love to make it into the bigger shows.
And you're classically trained too, right?
Yeah, I have grade 8 in classical piano.
And you studied at the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music.
I did in contemporary guitar.
And you also do a lot of accompanying for students too now, I believe.
Yeah, I do a lot of accompanying with my uni friends. Something I love to do for fun just outside of rehearsals and things, doing theatre covers. So me playing piano for my friends who love to sing.
Do you remember your first paid theatre gig?
My first paid theatre gig was being a deputy keys player for Mamma Mia in the city. So that was at the Princess Theatre. And I would go in for some observations in case I got to play. And that was my first paid.
And that had been something that you've been working towards for quite some time. How did it feel to you sitting in the orchestra pit of the Princess Theatre?
Yeah, it was so cool. I just was like, I made it to the place that I wanted to be.
And you've worked on some big shows. I mean, Mamma Mia, we just talked about. You were on stage for Six. You were in the pit for Dear Evan Hansen. Is it pressure or is it joy to be in a high-stakes show living out your dream?
Always some sort of pressure because in professional theatre, you have to do it so well. And yeah, every show is going to be different. There's going to be something where you do a little slip up, and then I would keep thinking about it after the show ended. So there is some pressure in that aspect to be almost perfect in your playing, but we are human and there is always going to be something where you do a slip up. But it's always super exciting. And my favorite thing about playing in Dear Evan Hansen was that it was my favorite musical, even like the 2 years before I did it, before I got to be in it. It was almost my favorite. So the coolest thing about performing in the show, in the band, was like getting to give that to everyone else that came to see it.
So you were a fan of Dear Evan Hansen before you even considered being a part of the Australian tour. Is that right?
Yeah. When I first started getting into theatre, I only knew a couple of songs from Wicked and I knew a couple of songs from Dear Evan Hansen. So it was one of the first ones that I started listening to.
Ash, how does that feel to be someone who grew up in regional Victoria, who had a dream to not only work as a musician but work as a musical theatre musician? One of your favourite shows in the world is Dear Evan Hansen, and then there you are at the Arts Centre in Melbourne playing to massive audiences as part of a national tour.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was like my favourite show. So it was just so cool to be part of it. And I always wanted to make sure that I went into it with a really like feeling really good too. I didn't want to go into the show like feeling any like negative feelings. So yeah.
If you could go back to where your musical journey started, what would you say to young Ash about what you were feeling then and where you are now?
What I would say to young Ash is that you actually made it to where you want to be.
Why do you think you made it to where you want to be?
Because I got to play in my favorite musical when I was only 21.
And it wasn't just good luck, was it?
No, I think I worked, like music theatre was the only thing I did for probably 3 years. Like it's 95% of my performing is in musical theatre. So I did do a lot of it and I like threw myself in.
And you're now about to start rehearsing for Here You Come Again, the Dolly Parton musical that's going to be opening soon at the Comedy Theatre.
Yeah, I am.
How did you get into that?
So the musical director, I knew him previously from when I was the fill-in for Rent. So I'd worked with him. I played probably 3 shows of Rent when it was in Melbourne, and then I got to play the whole week when it was in Canberra. So I'd worked with him before, and he sent me a message probably 2 weeks after I finished Dear Evan Hansen, and he said, Ash, I want to consider you to play in this new show. It's going to be a tour around Australia. So I sent in some videos of myself playing guitar, some little snips from Dear Evan Hansen and Six, and just other ones I filmed with my friends. Yeah, I sent them in, and he said that there were probably 2 other guitarists that were being considered as well. But the directing team chose me because they liked my energy.
Has Dolly Parton always been music that's on your radar?
It's always been on my radar, yes, but I haven't really listened to it as much as anything else. I know my mum is a fan.
And what's it like to be working on a show that celebrates such an iconic music figure?
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. I'm going to have to do a lot of work on my country chops for playing guitar because I feel like I'm a keys player first, so I don't have as much. I'm not as comfortable on guitar, but we'll get there.
And do you think it's changed your appreciation of country or pop music working on this show?
Yeah, a bit. I've never really been one to play country, so it's opened my eyes to what goes on in the country music.
And when you're on a longer tour, and you've been on a couple now, how do you keep yourself balanced, both your mental health and your physical health and just, your overall, how do you keep that stamina?
Oh, that's a good question. So when I was in Rent in Canberra for a week or so, I did get unwell. I got unwell, and just because I wasn't probably feeding myself as much as I should have. Yeah, we're going to work that out for 4 months.
And what do you do? How do you keep yourself going?
Knowing that you get to just play a show every night and your whole day leads up to that.
Do you practice during the day, or are you playing enough at night that you're just not while you're touring?
Oh, so when I was in Canberra for Rent, I had my uni guitar exam that I had to prepare for. So my exam was going to be at the same time that I was on tour, so I had to get it pushed back. So I was practicing for that while I was in Canberra.
Hey Ash, do you have any quirky pre-show habits?
Since I'm so obsessed with theatre, I do try and make the most of it, and I have all these little things that I stick on my music stand. Like I have a little Lego minifigure of myself that my friends made of me. So I put that on my stand, and I just have other things like old cards that people wrote for me, like chookers for this show. I just keep that on my stand so I can read it. I just give myself a little pep talk in the mirror, like, Ash, you made it and you got this. And then after every show, I do a favorite part of the show, and next time I will. And then it's my little recap of every show.
If you were to compare what you thought working in musical theatre would be as a kid and now living that experience, what do you think's different between the two?
I would say that there's a bit more pressure than what you might think. I don't know, just to be perfect, even though we're human.
And is that pressure that's coming from the musical director or the producer, or is that pressure coming from Ash?
Oh, I think that it comes a bit from the musical director, like expecting things from you, but then that manifests into more so in your own brain.
And how do you quieten that down when you're getting ready to play the overture of a big show?
That's a good question. Sometimes it doesn't quieten down, but, that's when, there was one show before the show, I was like, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it when I wanted to be feeling it. So I went outside and I grabbed my notebook and I just wrote down how I was feeling. I would buy the Dear Evan Hansen notebooks from the merch stand, and I filled in so many of them. I got up to my 4th one, and I just wrote down how I was feeling until I felt better, and then I went back inside and played the show.
What do you think's the best bit of professional advice you've ever received?
Okay, so I have this mentor. He's my favorite guitarist from regional Victoria. So it's not professional, it's just person closest to me advice. He would just always be like, what would Nathan Perry say? He that's him. So he was always got my back and wanted me to be the best that I could be. So he would be like, what would Nathan Perry say? What
would you say right now to a kid somewhere in regional Australia watching or listening to this podcast who has a dream to one day come to a city and play in a big theatre on a touring show?
I would say you got this. And I think that if you throw yourself into theatre, then you're going to get further and further. And you're going to end up making it.
I've got some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Just the first answer that comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong unless you get it wrong, and we'll have a laugh about it. You ready? Okay. Acoustic or electric?
Electric.
Why?
Because you get so many cool sounds.
Music you've listened to most in your life?
Panic at the Disco.
And what about the musical you've listened to most in your life?
Dear Evan Hansen.
The first album you ever bought?
Fall Out Boy.
What's a guilty pleasure song that you play when no one's listening?
Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac.
What is it about that song?
It's just blown up on Instagram and I can't escape it.
I am with Ash Murdica, who is about to be playing as part of the tour of Here You Come Again from the 12th to the 20th of July, and then again from the 23rd of October to the 2nd of November at the Comedy Theatre in Melbourne. It is also touring the country. For more info and to book tickets, hereyoucomeagain.com.au. Ash, thank you so much for coming into the studio, and chookers for an awesome tour.
Thank you. I appreciate it.